Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be reacting to a video called Why the Netherlands Has Fewer Castles Than You'd Expect. I don't think they're that known, the Netherlands in general. I think they're known for a lot of things, but I don't think having a lot of castles, it was one of them. But yeah, I have no idea why. I think maybe it's because it's really small and maybe there's fewer opportunities for them to build castles. So maybe it has to do with the soil, because I know it's very flat. So maybe there was, yeah, I would assume there was less need of them. Or maybe, again, because they're surrounded by water, maybe the land itself is not that sturdy. I don't know. I guess we'll find out. So let's check it out and comment, like, and subscribe.
Take a look at this map of Europe. Germany has more than 25,000 castles and ruins.
Oh my god, that's a lot.
Belgium has around 3,000.
It's really small.
France, closer to 45,000 if you count all the grand chateaus.
That's crazy.
Take a look at the Netherlands. Only about 600 or 700 left. I've lived here for a while and I've always found it a little puzzling. You cross a border into Belgium or Germany and castles are everywhere.
Well,
but here,
great point.
They're more rare. Historians think that there were once around 1,200 to 1,300 castles across the Netherlands, which means roughly half have disappeared.
Yeah.
So where did they go?
They sank.
And why didn't the Dutch keep them the way their neighbors did? It's not like the Netherlands doesn't care about their history. The country protects windmills, canal houses, and churches.
Maybe they were more important
castles?
for them.
Hardly any. So today we're going to try to solve that mystery. Why a country that once had more than 1,000 castles decided collectively to stop being a castle country. And the answer reveals something deeper about the Dutch way of thinking. Let's map it out.
Oh my. Okay. What could it be? It's all out with the old.
All right.
Good with the new.
To figure out why the Dutch castles disappeared, we first need to understand how they were different from the start.
They were
Look
different?
at the Netherlands compared to its neighbors. Germany has mountains and deep river valleys.
Exactly.
Belgium has soft rolling hills. But the Netherlands?
It's flat.
Almost completely flat. Kinda like a Dutch pancake flat. And it's not just flat though, it's flat and soggy. Half of it used to be underwater.
That's crazy to me.
Now,
That's
this
wild.
geography shaped everything. A typical German castle usually sat on a hilltop with walls up to 2 meters thick, designed to withstand massive siege armies with catapults and battering rams.
The idea is to defend.
A Dutch castle? Built on flat ground, surrounded by water, with walls barely 60 centimeters thick.
Oh my god.
Why? Because the Netherlands didn't face massive armies very often in those times. Medieval Dutch warfare was smaller scale. Think a few mounted knights and dozens of farmers with pitchforks.
So no one got in a fight with them?
So the Dutch leaned into what they had. Water. They built Waterberg, or moated castles where the moat was the real defense.
Oh, you can't
get in. A 4-meter wide ditch filled with muddy water could stop attackers long before they reached the walls.
It's gross, it's muddy.
And yes, I will probably be butchering my Dutch pronunciation of some of these terms and cities later. Sorry. But the Dutch took this water defense strategy even further. Instead of building more castles, they built water lines. Entire regions that could be deliberately flooded to stop invading armies.
Oh, you can flood them!
This was the Dutch water line, used successfully from the 1600s through World War II.
What?
By opening the right water gate, they could flood huge areas to just the right depth. And too deep for soldiers to walk, too shallow for boats. You can't march an army through soup.
Just drown them.
So while Germany built castles on every hilltop, and France ringed its borders with stone fortresses, the Netherlands relied less on castles and more on controlled flooding and fortified cities. Their geography, not hilltop fortresses, became their strongest defense. In most of Europe around the 1500s, life followed one simple rule. Kings owned the land, nobles built the castle to guard it, and peasants worked under them. That's feudalism.
That's so sad. Yeah, that's sad.
But the Netherlands was a little different. Around that same time, the whole feudal system was starting to break down.
In Amsterdam?
Power shifted from the countryside to the cities, from knights to merchants.
More money.
The Dutch even had their own version of feudal estates, called Heerlijkheden.
Oh, but it was your own version.
Was basically a feudal estate with a castle or manor house. In most of Europe, These stayed in the bloodline of noble families for centuries.
That's
But
the
in the
idea,
Netherlands, starting around 1500, something unprecedented happened. Heerlijkheid became commodities. They could be bought and sold like any other property.
Oh, they
Wealthy
just didn't
merchants
care.
from Amsterdam, Rotterdam, and Leiden started buying them up.
Yeah, they just
Not
care
because
about
they
the
needed
property.
fortresses, but because they wanted the status upgrade. Buy a Heerlijkheid, and suddenly you could add it to your own surname. You were a Van something now. You didn't
You could do
inherit
that?
nobility, you purchased it.
Okay, money
This
does buy
flipped the whole
everything.
social order. In Germany, a noble's castle was his family's identity.
It's everything.
Lose the castle, lose your power and prestige.
Everything.
In the Netherlands, real power came from somewhere else entirely. The Dutch Republic was one of the world's first merchant superpowers. The VOC, the Dutch East India Company, was the most valuable company in history.
What year was
Fortunes were made on ships sailing to the East Indies, in Amsterdam's warehouses, and
Again,
at the
what year
stock
was this?
exchange, not on rural estates. The Dutch Republic wasn't even ruled by a king for most of its existence.
this? Oh my god.
It was
who-
governed by regents, a political class of wealthy merchants.
Oh, the
These
merchants.
people had no ancestral attachment to their castles.
They
To
just
them,
ruled.
a castle or manor was an investment property, a
Yeah, they
status
just cared
symbol,
more about the money.
maybe a pleasant weekend retreat.
It's about the money.
By the 1600s, the whole system was merging. Old noble families were marrying their daughters off to wealthy merchants for cash
of
dowries.
course, there's gonna be a
Everyone
union.
was trading something: name, lands, or both.
Everything
The
you have
old
to
feudal
trade.
order was dying, and with it, the romantic attachment to castles.
I think that's less of it. They have less an
This
attachment
cultural
to this.
difference is crucial to understanding what happens next.
Absolutely,
Because
I
when
get it
wars
now.
came, when castles became expensive, when revolutions swept through Europe, the Dutch made very different choices than their neighbors.
Yeah, they didn't care about protecting them, I would guess.
By the year 1500, castles all across Europe were becoming obsolete.
It's the end of the
Two
castle
inventions
age?
killed them.
Ah,
First,
no.
gunpowder. Those thinner Dutch castle walls that worked fine against arrows?
Didn't have a chance.
Well, a cannonball went through them like they were made out of stroopwafels. Castle warfare had become fortress warfare, requiring completely different designs.
that's
Now,
so
if you
sad.
wanted real protection, you needed low, thick, sloping walls packed with earth. What we now call star forts. You end up seeing a bunch of these all across the Netherlands.
Okay, if they
The second
didn't
killer
put the
was
star, no idea
politics.
what that was.
As kingdoms got stronger and more centralized, the endless mini wars between local nobles started dying out. You didn't need your own fortress anymore because a national army was doing the job for you.
More stability.
So Dutch castles went down three main paths. Some became proper state fortresses, military outposts run by the government, like Maudersloot and
you spot them?
Loevestein. Others were turned into pleasure estates. The moat stayed, but mostly for decorations. Towers got windows.
Oh, that's gorgeous.
Defense was out, and luxury was in.
I love that.
And then
That
came
looks
the
like a
merchant
house.
version, the fake castle. Rich
Why is it
traders
fake?
wanted to look noble, so they built brand new castle-style country houses.
But what makes it
These
fake?
places never saw a sword in their lives. Places
that's the
like
fake part.
Kannenberg and Haus de Linschoten were built after castles were
This is
obsolete.
gorgeous. I'd live
They
there
were never
in a
meant for
nanosecond.
defense. They were stage sets, showing off the owner's wealth and taste.
That's the idea, yeah.
So
You're
by
wealthy.
1600,
Wealthy, that's what
the
you have
age of
this.
castles was over. But the buildings themselves were still standing. Which brings us to the question, if they weren't being destroyed in siege warfare anymore, then why did half of them disappear? Buildings don't just vanish, they have to be destroyed.
You
And
would
in the
think so.
Netherlands, destruction came in waves. It starts with a familiar friend/enemy in the Netherlands, water. In
Oh my God, they
1421, the St. Elizabeth's flood devastated the lower part of the Netherlands.
No way.
There were many St. Elizabeth floods in the Netherlands, so the year is needed for context. It destroyed the Grote Hollandse Voort, a farming
Really
district
destroyed?
which has never been fully restored. Entire villages disappeared underwater.
Awful.
Castles like Merwede and Dordrecht were heavily damaged
Drowned.
and left in ruins. But instead of rebuilding, locals did something very Dutch. They recycled it. They treated the ruins like a quarry. Brick by brick, the walls of Merwede became building materials for the
I love that
Grote Kerk
mentality.
in Dordrecht. They even sold the stone finds, the leftover fragments, to fund church repairs.
That's so
It was practical and resourceful at the time. And then
Pragmatism.
came the 80 Years' War, the long revolt
80
against
years?
Spanish rule.
That's so.
This wasn't just
that's
any
a long
war.
time.
It was a struggle for independence, for religious freedom, for the very existence of the Dutch Republic. Now imagine you're a Dutch commander with not enough troops to garrison all the castles. You've
Orange,
got two
as in
options.
the house.
Let the Spanish garrison your castles, or demolish them yourselves.
Well,
The Dutch picked demolition.
yeah,
Entire fortresses were blown up by their own side.
we'll do it
was
ourselves.
ruthless, but it kept those strongholds from turning against them.
Again, practical.
Fast forward to 1672, known as the Rampjaar, the disaster year. France's
What
Louis
happened?
XIV invaded with about 120,000 soldiers. The Dutch were outnumbered and outgunned. They fell back on their
Outmanned.
ultimate defense, the water lines. They opened the gates and flooded the land to knee depth, deep enough to slow soldiers, shallow enough to strand boats. The French
I love that because it's the only country that I think can do this.
advance stopped cold. Meanwhile, the Dutch followed a scorched earth policy. They destroyed castles,
Everything.
bridges, mills, anything that might help the invaders.
That's sad,
Valkenburg
but
Castle was
again,
blown up by
practical.
Willem III after driving out the French, so no one could ever use it again. Egmont Castle met the same fate. Many other strongholds followed.
That's
Think about
gonna
what
make
this
me want to
means.
cry.
The Dutch decided their survival was more important than their architectural heritage, while the French
It's sad, but that's the way it goes. Yeah, between a building and the continuation of the people, of course, the balance is quite easy. It's the people,
carefully preserved their chateaux and the Germans protected their strongholds.
but it's
The
gotta
Dutch
go
were blowing up their own castles and flooding the land.
for a greater
A
purpose.
century later came the final blow to feudalism, the Batavian Revolution of 1795. French revolutionary armies marched in, and suddenly
was
liberty,
it French?
equality, and fraternity was the national slogan in the Netherlands. Feudalism was out,
Same.
democracy was in, and castles were the symbols of everything people wanted to bury.
Of course, it's
Take
not
the
in it
Volkov
anymore.
Castle in Nijmegen, for example, one of the oldest in the country. Charlemagne of the Holy Roman Empire stayed there. Emperor Frederick Barbarossa rebuilt it.
That's so
It was
old.
practically a national monument at the time.
Yes,
but
it's
it
a
sat on
universal
provincial
treasure.
land, and maintaining it was expensive. Rival cities like Arnhem and Till saw it as a reminder of Nijmegen's old imperial status.
Oh, they
And the
didn't
new
like it.
revolutionary order of equality, that had to go. So when
Ah.
the assembly for the province met in September of 1795, they voted to demolish it.
But the
Why
history.
demolish something that old and famous?
Yes.
The simple answer is money. The walls were built from tough stone, and when ground up, that became trass, a valuable ingredient for masonry mortar.
Oh my God, they just
The
needed the
province
money.
sold the material for profit. Sadly, the city of Nijmegen didn't even get a share.
Oh no!
Today you can walk the Valkhof Park and still see the small Nicholaskapelle and the ruins of Martinskapelle, but
and
the
it's
rest is
gorgeous.
gone.
It's
One
so
of the most
pretty.
important imperial sites in the Netherlands was recycled for building material. And this wasn't unique. Across the Netherlands in
happened
the
again.
Revolutionary period, castles were demolished. Some for strategic military reasons, some because they were falling apart and expensive to maintain,
Well,
but
yeah,
many
I guess.
because they represented that old feudal order. And in the Merchant Republic embracing revolutionary ideals, that made them disposable.
Yeah, but still, it's
And
kind of
here's
sad.
what's crucial. There was no mass movement to save them. No noble family rising up in defense of
Oh,
their
no one
ancestral
cared.
seat. Why? Because as we discussed, most of these castles weren't owned by an ancient noble family anymore.
Yeah,
They
but
were owned
still,
by
it's your
merchant
house.
regents who bought them as investments. And when the revolutionary government said, we're demolishing this,
They
the
just
merchants
didn't
did
care.
what merchants do. They calculated the cost benefit and moved on.
Oh, it's about
But war
money
alone
and
doesn't
profit.
explain the full story. Because even after the wars ended, castles kept disappearing. And the reason is simple. In a merchant society,
that's the
everything
same
has
one?
a price. Medieval castles weren't just priceless monuments at the time. They were valuable stockpiles of construction material.
You
Tough
just
stone,
needed it.
bricks, timber, roofing, iron fittings. All of it could be salvaged and sold.
Oh, but get
Each ruined
it.
fortress was basically a hardware store waiting to be dismantled.
No, but get it somewhere else.
We already mentioned Merveda Castle becoming material for the Grote Kerk, but it happened elsewhere. Valkhoff's tough stone was ground into trass and sold across the province for mortar.
It's so sad because it's
Valskeleve was
beautiful.
demolished around 1819, and its gatehouse survived only because a farmer built his barn into it.
Oh my god.
And this continued into modern times, when archaeologists
This is a historian's worst nightmare.
excavated Schroenbroek Castle in Apeldoorn in the 1990s. They salvaged the medieval bricks and used them to construct a replica 14th century building at Archeon Historical Theme Park.
Oh, but that's
Even in the
and
20th
it's a theme
century,
park?
why let perfectly good bricks go to waste?
Yeah,
Now
I
let's try to
guess.
think like a 17th century merchant. You own a Heredickheid, a nice estate with an old castle on it. Option 1. Maintain it. That means specialized craftsmen, constant repairs,
And money.
expensive materials.
Yeah, and a lot of money.
Option 2. Demolish it. Sell the materials and build a comfortable modern house with windows that open and heating that works. If you care about your return on investment, that's an
Yeah.
easy decision.
For them, yes, of course.
Now compare this to Germany or France. There's an old castle that was part of the noble family's identity. You couldn't just demolish your ancestors' home. It would be a betrayal of your lineage. But in
Yeah.
the Netherlands, where merchants had just bought these properties as investments, no emotional attachment,
Yeah, it was
just
investment.
economics.
Yeah,
This is
not a
why
home-
there's no
not a
Dutch
home.
equivalent to Ludwig II's building fantasy castles in Bavaria, or French nobles carefully preserving their chateau. The Romantic movement that swept Europe in the 1800s did reach the Netherlands. That's when castles like the Haar were
It was too
rebuilt.
late.
By the time people started caring about heritage, half the castles were already recycled into something else.
Yeah, it's too late for them.
Now, if half the castles were destroyed, what about the half that survived? Why did these 600 to 700 make it when so many others vanished?
They were
The
lucky.
castles that survived usually did so for a very specific reason.
Oh, it's
And
specific.
these reasons tell us a lot about Dutch priorities.
What was a
First,
priority then?
some survived because the state still needed them. Castles like Moudersloot, Lovelstein, and Radboud were rebuilt or converted into proper fortresses.
It was a
They
prison.
guarded key rivers or coast, so they stayed on the government's payroll. They
They
had
had a
strategic
purpose.
value, so the state maintained them, not
Can
for
be
their
so
historical
practical.
significance, but because they were useful. A few castles lived on because their owners could afford them. Wealthy families in Heeswijk, Doorwerth, and Hoensbroek kept their estates in good repair, often turning them into comfortable homes.
Because
These weren't
it
medieval
was their home.
fortresses anymore. They were country mansions with moats.
They were them.
Some
their
places
own.
survived because they were never worth a siege. Herman was never besieged,
Oh, look at
which
those.
is why
Are
it still
those
looks medieval.
Are those horses?
Doornberg
Cows?
never mattered politically, so no one attacked until the 20th century.
Oh my
Way up
god.
north, Minkamabur stands far from the old centers of power and barely changed after 1700.
That's crazy.
Slootzaalen was even spared in 1672 thanks to connections. Low targets live longer. And finally, there are the ones that
That's
were
the-
rebuilt in the
that's the key.
1800s, when Europe rediscovered its love for the Middle Ages. Romanticism
rediscovered
swept through
it.
the Netherlands, and suddenly castles were fashionable again. De Haar is the best example of this. The medieval castle had been a ruin for centuries until
It's the
1892.
castle of the Har.
When
Was
the
that a
Van
family?
Zuylen family hired architect Pierre Kuipers, the guy who designed Amsterdam Central Station and the Rijksmuseum.
It's
What
a
you
toy
see
house.
today isn't the original medieval structure. It's a late 19th century fantasy of what a medieval castle should look like.
Oh, that's what it looks
Beautiful,
like a toy house.
impressive, but more Disneyland than authentic history.
Yeah.
Today, the
It
surviving
looks
castles
fake.
serve every purpose you can imagine. Some, like Moudersloot, are museums. Others are hotels, restaurants, or government
It's surrounded
offices.
by a
A few are still
this is
private
quite well.
homes. The rest are romantic ruins, kept stable enough for tourists to take photos, but not much else. But for every castle you can visit today, there's another one that exists only in paintings or old drawings.
This
The
is so
website
sad.
castles.nl even has a lost castle section filled with paintings of fortresses that no longer exist.
At least the
The
paintings
artists sometimes
are forever.
exaggerate or guess at what they look like, so even our
Oh, it was a
memories of
guess.
them are a little blurry. What's left of the medieval Netherlands is a patchwork.
reality.
Some authentic, some rebuilt, some remembered only in art.
Hmm.
Each surviving castle tells a story, not just of what survived, but what the country chose to keep. So why are there so few castles in the Netherlands?
Because they're
We've
practical
mapped out
people.
a lot of details. Floods, wars, and centuries of brick recycling. But the answer comes down to one thing. The Netherlands was fundamentally different from its neighbors.
True.
A country built below sea level learned early that survival depends on maintenance, not monuments. When the land itself can drown you, you get practical fast.
Correct.
You build for function, not for show. That same attitude shaped everything that came later. The trading empire.
Everything,
the polders,
it's true.
The modern engineering marvels. It's the
Everything.
same logic that turned moats into canals and fortresses into cities.
It's just very Dutch.
Germany kept its castles as nostalgia. France polished its chateaux as art. The Dutch built floodgates. Different kinds of monuments. Same instinct to control their environment.
Yeah.
Stand in Valkhof Park now, and you'll see couples walking together where emperors once ruled. That's not a loss per se. It just shows what the Dutch valued at the time. The
It's
stones
different.
moved on, and so did the people. In the end, the absence of castles is the most Dutch story possible.
Correct.
Practical,
Yes.
unsentimental, and looking forward rather than back. The Dutch didn't need castles to become a global power. It had
Absolutely
something
not.
better. Water, merchant ships, and the willingness to adapt when others clung to the past.
I love that.
Thanks so much for watching. Your support means the world. So if you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, and let me know in the comments what you thought. See you next time, where we'll map out something new.
Yes, I agree. Having seen the logic behind this, I absolutely agree with the whole. Yes, I think it's a very Dutch thing. The whole concept of adapting to your environment and to look at things in a practical way. I think it's really easy. I think as humans, we get very sentimental about so many things, and we're very particular about objects. I think in general, we're very attached. I think to objects, to pieces of objects. I think a building, a castle. I think that's an object. But I think we as humans, we tend to be very attached to those kind of things, especially. I think the more time it passes, I think the sort of you get more attached with things. And of course, I think it's only natural. I think that's a very human thing. I know some people are very detached, but I think it's just very human, that concept of we want to preserve, we want to keep, this is mine. This is very, this is old, and if something's old, you want to preserve it. However, I think when it comes to, and that's, I think, said as something, and I think more people, and probably again, this is more speaking very broadly, black and white. I think that's usually how it goes. However, I think that's those kind of things of, I'm very attached to this. I think that's really, it's not real, it's very sentimental, of course, but I think it's just you don't get any hardships, and that's ideally in a great world, that's what it would happen. And yes, you're very attached to something, and you're very sentimental, and you're going to keep this forever. However, that's not really the reality, I think, and that's, again, you can liken this to so many things, both in antique time periods, and I think in modern times as well. The minute I think someone, or either whether that's a country, whether that's someone, a family, just whatever it is, you start going through hardships, and then you get to see the more practical things, you get less sentimental, and you have to look at things in a more practical way of thinking. And I think it wakes you up really fast. I think that's what I'm going with this. It's a wake up call. I think nothing wakes you up faster about that sort of sentimental. It's you're being, yes, it's just you're being sensible, I think, about these kind of things, because again, you're so open, you're attached to this. And again, it's that sort of romanticism they were talking about, of being, but yes, I love this, and I know this is mine, this is mine, this is my own. And I don't know, this is, whether it's, obviously it was different because they didn't have families, it wasn't as an, this is my family's ancestral home. But I think, again, whether that is your home or just something that you got 20 years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, or even something that, someone gave this to me as a present. And again, you're very attached to this. But again, nothing cures you of this faster than going through some sort of hardship that you have to put things in a balance and say, well, whether if the option, we have two options, and we can't, this is going to be cumbersome for our future goals, or we're in the situation of whether you have to sell things because you don't have money to, I don't know, pay your house. Again, I'm going to extremes here, But that's, I think, the general idea. I think, again, the minute you have to go through something really hard, then of course you know what, this beautiful present that I got that I love, maybe I can sell this. Maybe it's not that important to me, or maybe it is really important to you. But I think when it comes to, you have to look at things and say, is this going to serve a purpose beyond me liking this because, again, someone gave this to me, or because it's really old? Well, yeah, okay. Between that and probably eating this week, or having a roof up on your head, of course you're going to choose. Well, you know what? Let's sell this. And I think that, again, it's that's a very human thing. And I get why they did this, because I think if you're like, and obviously no few people I think these days own castles. But I understand the concept of, yeah, of course, I can see why. It's as if people that maybe owned, I don't know, pieces of jewelry, and maybe this is, it was my great grandmother's ring. Yeah, but maybe sometimes, again, is that attachment that you have to this piece, and because it's very old, it belonged to someone in your family. But between that and maybe, again, you have to be practical about things. Well, it goes fast, and it's really sad as well. That doesn't make it less sad. I think maybe for Dutch people, because that's in their nature and they're very used to this, I can see why maybe they just didn't really care about this. Maybe they wouldn't care. But I think probably a lot of people in the rest of the world, I think it takes a lot to, again, just sell whatever it is, get rid of this. But, you have to look at things in a practical way of thinking. And that goes with the whole thing that really surprised me when they were going scorched earth when they were being attacked at one of those time periods. And they were, yes, we have to destroy everything. We have to destroy the castles. We have to destroy the bridges. We have to destroy everything. And again, it's awful. I think at least to me, I don't know. Well, I guess a lot of people can relate. I don't think I'm alone in this. It's such a sad thing of, wow, look at all the things that we built. And maybe those things were older. Obviously, they were older than God knows who. And there was just, wow, a lot of people just put a lot of effort into this. And, it's our history, it's part of our history, that aren't part of our town or part of our country. But then we have to destroy it in order to, I don't know, to save people. Well, I guess that's what I'm going with this. Of course, you're going to get in between an immaterial object, something that's just, it's the history and all of that. Again, it's just you're being sentimental about things. Then we have to think about the reality is that people are going to get killed. So if you are going to get killed, in between that and people saving our people and maintaining some structures that people built 50 years ago to 100 years ago, well, of course you can see why. Okay, well, make your choice. Well, yeah, of course you're going to go, yes, of course, destroy the bridges, destroy everything. But at the same time, I just think it's really sad. It's sad to be put in that position. But I understand the decision, because, again, of course, you have to be practical. And I think especially that's very particular, I think, to the Netherlands. And that's why I think they're very practical people. And that's really, I think, in their nature, as they said. Again, it's just because of the way they're located in this, as in the country itself, where it's located. They're surrounded by water. Everything's sea level. They have to get practical really fast, because I don't think you can get attached to things if you're in this position of everything can be gone with the water can just get rid of everything. So I think maybe that's what cures you really fast, and that's why they as a society, I think Dutch people, probably that's why they didn't really care that much. Or maybe I think that's why these days and modern Dutch people, I think, are more, again, that pragmatism, it's much more, I think, a part of their identity, just because, yes, we have to do things. I think, again, it's just, well, it's sad, but, whatever, we have to really make a practical choice here. And that's what it is. And I think maybe, it's good. And of course, again, it's sad that the whole process, and it's sad having to make that choice, and it's sad having to have those incredible old buildings be destroyed. But I get it. And yes, it's part of their identity. And and it's such a beautiful thing that despite all of those bad things and negative things of them they destroy them themselves, or they just didn't, yeah, sure, whatever, we have to get rid of it. Because, again, we need the stones because we need the material. Yes, again, it's just, okay, that makes me I'm a little bit sad, and it's just a little shocking. But at the same time, it's a beautiful thing, I think, because again, it's Dutch people in particular that are able to do this. It's the whole, what a beautiful identity to have. I think you're very, it's not as romantic. So it's a little bit, I think, more grounded on earth. But at the same time, well, yeah, that's why they're so great, and that's why as a country, there's for such a small country, they're this incredible superpower. And that's why those kind of things are those little things, and you can really just see why, in this day and age, they are the superpower that they are now, and it's because of their history. And you can see, yeah, again, even they destroyed all the castles, they destroyed so many antique things and ancient things. But at the same time, something greater was born, which I think it makes for a good, I think, maybe a metaphor of, yeah, sometimes you really do have to get rid of things, and you have to maybe destroy things that are very old and very old institutions and very old, just old things in general, that you want to preserve them because, again, it's the whole, something, it's powerful because it's very old, and that makes it powerful in and out of itself. But sometimes you kind of have to get rid of them and you have to destroy them. And it's because, but yeah, that's the bad part. But the good news is that something greater is going to come from this. And I think, again, you can use this metaphor for so many things. And I think the Dutch have applied this beautifully, I think, throughout the years. And I think maybe there's some things that we could learn from them. As you know what, yeah, sometimes it's better to destroy things in order to ensure the survival of greater for more people, or just ensuring survival in general. Sometimes you have to destroy things, and you're gonna have to destroy your own history. But again, your insurance survival, I think obviously that's tantamount to, I don't know, it's just better, of course. It's going to be the most important thing. So yeah, of course. And yes, it's just, well, yeah, it's sad in a way, because I think maybe that's just me. Maybe it's me. I'm surrounded by the whole romanticism, and it's very, oh no, I can't believe they just got rid of them. But at the same time, I really do understand why. And again, maybe it's just, we have to get rid of that romanticism and be more practical. Pragmatism is good. Look at the Dutch, they made it. If they made it, I think we can make it as well. But that was it for today, and I'll see you next time. Bye.